Hey everybody, John King with Summit Funding. Thank you for joining me today for my Financial Friday. I do this webinar every single Friday and we talk about topics that are related to your personal finances, what's happening with the market, things you need to know if you're looking to buy a home or if you own a home. And today I'm going to have a little bit of a backwards type of a presentation from what you think I would be talking about. And I'm going to go over the 5 reasons you should not buy a home in this market. And we're going to dive deep into those reasons. I've actually got a bonus 6th reason as well that I'm going to give you. So you get more than what you bargained for today. But really what I want to do is I want to be really clear about where people get their advice. Because my worry right now is that you get your advice from people and they only tell you one side of the story. And my goal today is to give you both sides of the story, to give you the appropriate amount of consideration, because you have to take everything somebody tells you and understand where they're coming from. Now, a lot of my audience is real estate agents as well, and I'm not disparaging realtors. I'm just saying that we have to be careful the message that we send to people, because if the message I send is always, it's a great time to buy, it's a great time to buy, you should own a home no matter what. Guess what? I get paid when you buy a home and use me. Same with real estate agents. So I really think that as a professional, to say I'm unbiased is not true. I'm biased. I think homeownership is great, but I need to make sure that I am clearly stating it's not perfect for everyone. It's not perfect in every circumstance. And so that's what I want to cover today, is to really make sure that you understand I'm not only trying to tell you one side of the story, I'm trying to tell you both sides of the story and to give you really clear understanding of the times when you shouldn't be a homeowner and the considerations you've got to take into effect when you're making that decision. So let's talk about what are the 5 reasons you should not buy a home in today's market. Now, I'm going to go over these big picture, and then we'll dive into them more specifically. The first reason, don't buy a home if you can't afford the payment. Reason number 2, don't buy a home if you need to move in the next 2 or 3 years. Reason number 3 to not buy a home. I feel like I should be David Letterman with the cards here. And reason number 3, and toss the cards. Anyway, reason number 3, don't buy a home if you expect the housing market to crash. Reason number 4, don't buy a home if you'll be left with 0 reserves. And reason number 5, don't buy a home if you expect your income to drop significantly in a recession. And I'll tell you really quick, my 6th reason, my 6th bonus, did I lose it? Haha, I typed my bonus one in here and then it's gone. What the heck was my bonus reason? That's really good. I'll come back up with it. I literally came up with it right as I was about to jump onto this call. And I thought, well, that's a really good reason. And now I lost my bonus reason. Oh, well, I'll come back to my bonus reason, but I didn't save it. That's really too bad I didn't save it. Anyway, so let's dive into what are the specific reasons. I promise you I'll come back up with the bonus reason. But we'll dive in. So first and foremost, don't buy a home if you cannot afford the payment. Here's what's going on. We've got interest rates that are increasing significantly. We've got interest rates go from 2.5% to 3% on average to 6.5% or 7% right now. And it is significantly increasing your monthly payments. Now, you can have anybody tell you, oh my gosh, interest rates are amazing compared to where they were in 1941 or 1981 or any other year. So what? What you have to worry about is your income, your monthly payment. How much do you have to spend? Because I don't care how great it is to be a homeowner. If you can't write the check every single month, you're going to lose that home. And that is the worst thing that can possibly happen. So make sure you know what your budget looks like. Now, I want to dive in a little bit deeper into this thinking about budget, because a lot of people misunderstand and they say, oh, well, I only want to spend a certain really, really low percentage of my income towards my payment. Or they say, oh, you know what? I don't want to spend any more than I'm spending in rents to be a homeowner. Well, guess what? It's going to cost you more than your rent to be a homeowner. But there's benefits to homeownership, so it's worth it. But it's not worth it if you can't afford the payment. And so you have to look at it and say, how much money can I really spend per month on a home? If I stretch, what's my number? And then stick to that number. Don't let anybody, including me, push you to spend more than what you're really comfortable spending. Because you're going to have, if you have kids, you're going to have soccer league, you're going to have equipment you got to buy for them, you're going to have school supplies, you've got entertainment and life. You have to make sure that you're not in a position where you're completely house poor. But again, you have to understand that the value of home ownership sometimes requires a sacrifice. So if you can afford it and you just cut back on, the Starbucks a day, and that's no big deal to you, then do that. But if you can't afford it, then don't push yourself. Don't go get a cosigner because, well, the bank says I can qualify as long as I've got a cosigner, so I should do it. Don't go do that, because you get a cosigner and you can't afford the monthly payment, you're going to lose the house. So do not buy a home if you can't afford the payment. Now, you're going to hear me say, you've heard me say many, many times over, you're going to continue to hear me say, I think now is a great time to buy a home, because when you buy now, you get to choose the home you want, you get to negotiate seller credits, you get time to do inspections, and you can refinance when interest rates drop. And I do think interest rates will drop in the next couple of years. But guess what? If you can't afford the payment unless interest rates are lower, then don't buy now and try and hope that you can afford the payment. Don't buy now using an adjustable rate mortgage or even a temporary rate buy down, because whether it's an adjustable rate mortgage or a temporary rate buy down, you're banking on your ability to refinance that in the next couple of years. What if you can't? How many people lost their home, lost their life savings back in 2007 and 2008 simply because they were banking on the fact that they could refinance and they couldn't refinance? And so now they're in a position where they're stuck and they ended up losing their home. So do not take advantage of any of these fringe offers. And I offer some of them, but the fact is I'm offering them for someone who can afford the payment or knows that they're going to have a pay increase. If you know that you're in an industry where you have a scheduled amount of pay increases, you're growing in your job, and you literally know that a year and a half from now, you're going to hit the high end of the pay scale, and you know what that's going to look like. You're a teacher, and you know when you get your master's degree, you're getting a $10,000 bump in your pay, and you're 12 months away from your master's degree. Those kind of circumstances, then maybe you use one of those tools to get a lower payment temporarily, because you know you can afford a higher payment later. But that's the only time. If you cannot afford the monthly payment today, do not try to figure it out. Do not buy a home. Rent until interest rates come back down. Yes, there'll be more competition. Yes, you will be looking, I think, more like the way things looked in 2020 and 2021. But that is way better than being in a situation where you lose the home in the meantime because you cannot afford to make the monthly payment. All right, so let's dive into reason number 2. By the way, this is interactive. I've got about a dozen people watching right now. So if you're watching on any one of my platforms, there's 5 different platforms this is live streaming to. Feel free to post any comments that you have, and I'll address those as we go. I don't promise you, because I still can't remember what the bonus reason was. And it was really good, but I'll get it out on another video later if I can't remember before the end of this call. But the second reason why you should not buy a home today is do not buy if you plan or need to move in the next 2 or 3 years. Now, why do I say that? I say that for a couple of reasons. First of all, even in the most aggressively appreciating market, you still have to worry about, hey, I just spent a bunch of money to buy the house. I got fees that I have to pay for my loan. And you have to spend a bunch of money to sell a house. You have to have fees that you're paying to your realtor. And so if your house went up by 10% in a year, and you said, hey, I know I'm going to sell in a year, but house prices are going up, and I can, even if you could get a guarantee in writing, housing prices are going up 10%. You buy a $400,000 home, it's going to go up 10%, and it's going to be worth $440,000 in a year. Guess what? Your cost of selling that home is going to be around 5 to 6%. So now on your $440,000 home, you're going to spend between $22,000 and $25,000 in cost to sell the home. On top of that, excuse me, you're going to have fees for purchasing the home. You're looking at anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 in fees to purchase the home. So that means you're looking at anywhere from $35,000 to $40,000 in cost between the cost to purchase and the cost to sell. That $400,000 home You made nothing on it in that year. I made some money. Your realtor made some money. I'm not in business to make money in a losing proposition for you. I'm in business to make money when you win. And if you don't win, I don't want you to do it. So that theory that I just explained is assuming the house price went up by 10% in a year. Right now, I don't think we're going to see even a 10% increase annually. Now, I don't know, but you've heard me be very optimistic about the housing market and say it's a good thing to buy, that buying a home is a good idea. But what you haven't heard me say is I think housing prices are going up 10% this year. The average appreciation, I've run some numbers. I got a video on the financial benefits of owning a home, and I talk about 3% annual increase. 3% per year means that in 3 years, you've only gained 9%. So 3% is the national average of appreciation. Now, in California, we've seen closer to 5 or 6% per year. But guess what? That means that in the next 2 or 3 years, it's likely we're a little bit below average until interest rates come back down. And nobody knows for sure when they're going to come back down. They will. And they will come back down once inflation's under control and we end up in a recession. We're going to see interest rates come back down. But in the meantime, I think we're going to be closer to 2 or 3%, maybe 4% appreciation on average. And I wouldn't bank on anything greater than that. We might even have a little bit of a decline in values in certain markets. So you've got to be really clear. If you expect that you need to sell, now need to sell means, John, my job has me here stationed for the next 3 years. And they have already said that after the end of this 3-year time frame, they're going to send me to Texas. Then you know you're selling in 3 years. I'd be concerned about buying in today's market. Now, I'm not telling you that you shouldn't. If it's like at the outside end of that, maybe you like the idea of home ownership and you hate the idea of being a renter and you think there's a chance you want to keep this home as a rental property. All of those reasons might mitigate my statement. But in general, don't buy a home if you plan or need to move in the next 2 to 3 years. All right, my next one. Don't buy a home if you expect the housing market to crash. You're going to say, well, John, I've been following your stuff and you've said you don't expect the housing market to crash. I don't. But yesterday I had to go to the Bay Area for something and I didn't expect to hit rain as I went through Vacaville either. The weatherman didn't tell me I was going to hit rain in Vacaville, but I did, and it rained. Anybody who's predicting the future is guessing. I'm guessing. I'm guessing based on education, guessing based on research, guessing based on knowledge and experience, but I'm still guessing. I don't know what's going to happen. I have zero expectation the housing market's going to crash. But if you believe that it is, then don't take my word for it and say, okay, I'm going to buy a home now, even though, because John King said the housing market's not going to crash. You have to make your own decision. We are all adults. If you're not an adult, you're not allowed to buy a home. So we are all adults, and you have to decide, do I think this is what's going to happen? Am I willing to put my money up on the bet that housing prices aren't going to crash? Because if housing prices do crash, if we end up back in the same situation as we were in 2007 and 2008, you have to decide, am I willing to stick it out long enough to recover? Now, if you think about it, prices dropped in 2008. By 2018, they were back up to where they dropped from. You didn't make any money in those 10 years. You broke even. But it's about you making the decision. Lori says hi. Hi, Lori. Thanks for commenting. At least somebody's commenting. By the way, if you comment, you get to have your name on the screen. Thank you, Lori. So you have to make the decision that says, do I think the housing market's going to crash? I talk to people periodically who feel that way. I'm not going to convince you otherwise. I'm going to give you my explanation on why I think the market is not going to crash. And I'm going to take 2 minutes and repeat it to you right now. Here's what we got. We have a shortage of houses compared to the number of people that need them. That shortage started in 2008 with the Great Recession, and builders stopped building homes and buyers stopped buying homes because they couldn't qualify because they'd had a foreclosure. Builders didn't start building again until 2015, and buyers really didn't start buying again until 2015-ish. And so we had a buildup of demand, of people continuing to get old enough to need a place to live, but they didn't move. They didn't buy a home because they couldn't or they were afraid to. Hi, Sherry. Thanks for the thumbs up. So people didn't buy a home. And so we had supply and demand stayed in line. because we had people up until about 2015, the supply was not increasing, and the demand started to increase, but those people really weren't buying in great amounts until 2020. Now we hit 2020, demand shoots way up, but supply hasn't moved up. Now everybody wants to buy because rates are super low. And now we're seeing the rate go up because of inflation. And those people the demand is dropping. People are waiting because they're waiting for a housing market crash. They're waiting for interest rates. They're worried about interest rates going high, I should say. And so we've got a shortage of homes. And the only reason why that shortage is balanced out is because temporarily, with rates being high, the demand has dropped at or below supply. Builders have stopped building. Builders are not building right now because they know the demand isn't there. But when interest rates come back down, and when interest rates are going to come back down during the next recession. Every recession in history, when we look back at the interest rate at the beginning of the recession compared to the interest rate at the end, rates have always been lower at the end of a recession than they were at the beginning. So as soon as we hit a recession and interest rates start coming back down, all those buyers that have been waiting to buy are going to jump back in the market, and the demand is going to go way up and the supply is not going to be there. In the meantime, could we have a market crash before we have a recession? Absolutely we could. And it would come if the federal government does not get inflation under control. And if we don't fight inflation by raising the short-term interest rates, and we don't fight inflation and get it under control, then rates on mortgages are going to keep going up. And with rates going up on mortgages, buyers are going to continue saying, you know what, I'm out. I can't, even though I wanted to buy, I can't anymore. The rate has gone up too high. I can't afford the monthly payment unless the price of the house they're looking at drops. So could we have a crash? Yes. But there's so many people sitting on the sidelines with cash right now, waiting for that crash. So I want you to think about these stories we hear on the news about some gas station that accidentally puts gas on sale for $1 a gallon. And it spreads like wildfire on social media. And within an instant, there's a mile-long line backed up to get gas from that gas station. Guess what? The gas station either fixes the price issue or they run out of gas before you ever get to the front of the line. And that's what's going to happen if there is a crash. That we see, hey, buyers aren't buying and some seller has to sell. So he's going to drop his price significantly. Somebody's going to jump in and buy that. But as soon as somebody jumps in and buys that, the next person lists their home at that price, you're going to have 42 people jump in and want to buy at that price, and the bidding wars begin and prices go up. So could there be a crash? Yes. But there's so much cash on the sidelines, so many qualified buyers sitting on the sidelines waiting for rates to drop or prices to drop, that as soon as they do, it's going to get eaten up by demand. All right, I got multiple comments I didn't get to. Actually, they're all Lori. Let's see. Oh, Sherry said hi. We'll go back to Sherry. Hi, Sherry. I saw your thumbs up. I didn't see your hello. All right. So Lori says, what's the outlook for rates going down in the next 12 months? I'll cover that in just a second. And then you said there was a mention within 24. So I did say within 24 months. So here's what I'm thinking about as far as interest rates are concerned. I'm cautious in how much information I'm giving to who, okay? Because it's like the weatherman saying, hey, it's going to rain next week versus it's going to rain at 10 o'clock in the morning starting on Tuesday morning. The closer you get to Tuesday morning, the more likely the weatherman's going to say, yeah, it's going to rain probably tomorrow morning. And then by Monday night, late Monday night, early Tuesday morning, like, yeah, 10 o'clock is when the rain's going to start. The further out you are from a prediction, the more you have to be generalized about timing. And that's how I feel right now. I have a lot of people I trust who are saying they think that we could see interest rates below 5% in the next 18 months. And a couple of them saying we could see it in the next 6 months. I'm not sure we're going to see it in the next 6 months. I'm not speaking to it in the next 6 months. But Lori, if I've got people that are saying, hey, we think we're going to be below 5% in 6 months and others saying we're going to be below 5% in 18 to 24 months, I feel like it's somewhere in the middle. I think in the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to see interest rates back under 5%. Now, let me be super clear. I screwed up my call at the beginning of this year. I thought we were going to see interest rates top out at about 4.75 to 5%, and they weren't going to go above that. Clearly, I was wrong. We're pushing right now 7% as of this morning, and interest rates are not doing well today. The inflation report came out a couple of days ago. It continues to show that inflation is out of control. I do think that we're going to start seeing more of inflation numbers coming back in line. I think that the Federal Reserve is trying to test the water a little bit too early. Think about when you're filling a bathtub and, or taking a shower and you turn the water on and you want to get it hot. You're going to turn it all the way to hot if you're in a hurry. And you keep testing the water and you say, oh, it's not warm enough. It's not warm enough. And then finally, when it's warm enough, you jump in. But remember, you had turned the water nozzle all the way to hot. Well, you get in there and 30 seconds later, it's scalding hot and it burns you. And that's what I think we're dealing with right now. I think we're going to see inflation start coming down. It takes time for the medicine to work. And I think we're going to start seeing it come back down some. So that should help with the interest rate issue, combined with the fact that I feel a lot of concerns within the economy. I feel it from my clients. I feel it from my realtors. I feel it just in the things that I'm reading, that we are on the precipice, if not already entering a recession. And I think this recession is going to be longer and deeper than any one that we've had in a while. And it is a global recession. Normally in a recession, you have one part of the world that's in recession and a different part of the world that's not. And the way things are going right now, every economic entity in the world, every country, there's some countries that really aren't economic powerhouses, but every economy of any size in the nation is experiencing the same things that we are here in the United States. And normally, when you have one economy that's doing good and another economy that's doing bad, the economy that's doing good drags the other economies out. They end up creating more demand in our global economy to pull those struggling economies out of recession. If nobody's doing good, who's pulling us out of recession? That's kind of the simplest way to put it. I think this recession is going to be longer and deeper than what anybody's expecting. Now, recessions don't harm housing prices. Housing prices historically have gone up during recession because interest rates for mortgages go down. It's before the recession that housing prices went down or stagnated, interest rates went up, and inflation was a major issue. But it's fixing those things that leads us into a recession, and typically housing prices do very well and interest rates go down. So hopefully that answers your question, Lori. Let me circle back to say, don't buy a home if you expect the housing market to crash. If you think, John, you're full of malarkey, that's not true. I'm with you. Don't buy a house. That is entirely your call. And don't let anybody convince you of it, because nobody can predict the future, even me. All right. Don't buy if you're left with zero reserves. That's reason number 4. Guys, I'm racking my brain about what the heck that bonus reason was that I wrote down. I literally typed it in. I guess I didn't hit save in these banners. Anyway, hopefully I'll come up with a bonus reason. But reason number 4 of the 5 that I had ahead of time was don't buy if you're left with zero reserves. Now, what are reserves? First of all, reserves are the money that are left over after you buy your home, after you pay for your down payment and your closing costs. And almost no loan program except for jumbo loans care if you have any reserves. In other words, the banking industry, the mortgage industry will let you buy a home even if after buying the home, you're left with nothing. You have no down payment, or excuse me, no money left over in case your car breaks down, no money left over to pay for repairs on the house, nothing. We're okay with it. I think it's the stupidest thing my industry does. I believe the number 1 component of success, especially in maintaining your credit score, is having money for a rainy day fund. Because if you don't have money in a rainy day fund, sure as anything, it's going to rain. And you're not prepared for it. And now you're struggling to rob Peter to pay Paul. Home ownership is great, except you can't pick up the phone and call the landlord and say, hey, the toilet broke, I need you to come fix it. You're the landlord. You have to fix it, or you have to hire somebody to come fix it. Now, hopefully you got a home warranty and that'll cover some of those things. But guess what? The home warranty has got to be renewed. Sometimes the home warranty company is not willing to cover something. So you have to know that you have extra money left over to to pay for those things. And it scares me when I have clients who are buying homes that have nothing left. Now, I'm be careful how I say this. I'm gonna be real clear about how I say it, but I'm gonna be careful. Back in 2004 to 2002 to 2008, I mostly did subprime mortgages. And people would ask me, my gosh, John, how could you do a loan for somebody that was so horrible, that had really bad terms and adjustable rates? And I said, well, two reasons why. First of all, because they're getting better advice from me than anybody else. Now, this is a tangent, but I'll get to the point in a minute. They're getting better advice from me than anybody else because a lot of my peers are giving these loans and not explaining them to people. And secondly, they're going to do it anyway. So I might as well be the one that takes care of them and tells them what I suggest than to let them work with someone else who's going to do it anyway. The client's going to do it and some other lender's going to do it. And so let me be the one that does it so that at least I can give you better advice along the way. I feel the same way about reserves. The truth is, I'm not going to stop somebody from buying a home and not have any reserves. Because if I say no, if I stand firm on my principles, then I say, I believe it's a horrible idea to buy a home without having money left over, and I'm not going to participate in this transaction. They're going to go next door and do a loan with somebody else. So what did my principles get me? They got me nothing. What did my principles get my clients? They got my client worse service from someone that isn't going to take care of them as well as I'm going to take care of them. And so if you're a realtor on this call and you're listening to this, be careful about imposing your ethical, your moral, your financial decisions on your client and saying, I'm not participating if you're going to do that. They're going to do it anyway. So why let them get less quality service from someone else? You are not their mother. I am not your mother. I am here to advise you and give you the best possible advice. And my advice is, I'd rather you put 5% down and keep extra money in the bank than to put 20% down and have no money in the bank. Plus that extra 15% you didn't put down, you can invest it. And somebody's gonna say, oh my gosh, John, the stock market is down right now. It's a horrible time to invest. Guess what? When the stock market is down is the best time to invest because stocks are on sale. Now, if you're holding reserve money, you don't want to put out all that in the stock market because you bought a house a year ago and you had your money in reserves in the stock market. And now you needed to fix that broken pipe under the house. It's a tough time to sell stocks to raise money because the price has dropped. So talk to a financial advisor. If you don't know a good financial advisor, check with me. I can get you connected with someone. Money market funds are paying a good return right now. There's lots of things that you can do. Just be smart about your money. But the first thing is you got to have money to be smart about it. And that is critical when we're talking about buying a home, that you have the ability to say, I have some money as a rainy day fund. So if you are going to be left with zero reserves, and that's the only way that you can afford the payment is to put 20% down and have no money in reserves. Let's see, Karen, hi Karen, thanks for the thumbs up. So if you're in that position where you're left with no money in reserves because that's the only way you can afford it, think about what you're doing. That means you're stretching your monthly payment budget as far as it can possibly go because you had to put 20% down to get to the payment you could barely afford. And it leaves you with nothing left in reserves. Now, if you want to do that, I'm going to do it for you. I will happily take great care of you. But I'm going to recommend that we consider other options because having money in reserves is critical. And so in my opinion, you should not buy a home if you're left with zero money in reserves. All right, my final reason, because at this point, I really can't think of what that bonus reason was. My final reason is don't buy a home if you expect your income to drop significantly in a recession. Here's the deal. I just talked about it over the last few minutes. I see us headed into a recession. There's no way that the federal government can slow inflation without slowing the overall economy. And the definition of recession is slowing the economy. So we're going to be in a recession. What does recession mean? It means that the economy is producing less goods and services, and therefore they need less people to produce those goods and services. And there will be layoffs. We might go from 3%, 3.5% unemployment right now to 10, 12, 13.5%. There might be 10% of the people that are working today that are going to lose their job. So you have to think, do I have a risk of losing income, either by losing my job or a decrease in the amount of income I'm going to receive during a recession. If you think that your income is in jeopardy over the next 2 or 3 years as we go through this next recession, it might not be a good time to buy a home. As a matter of fact, for the sake of the intent of this video, do not buy a home if you expect your income to drop significantly during a recession. I don't see any way we make it through this without being in a recession. And as I said earlier, I think the recession is going to be deeper and longer than any of the ones that anybody is expecting. So you have to know that your income is likely to be stable. Now, don't buy a home. Don't say, oh my gosh, John, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to have a job, because nobody's sure if they're going to have a job. Well, that's a little Chicken Little kind of thinking. Oh my gosh, the sky is falling. No, it's not. You're just worried that the sky could be falling. What I'm saying, let me clarify. If you're feeling stable in your job and you have nothing in particular to be concerned about, don't overthink it and say, oh my gosh, but I don't know what's going to happen in a recession. But if you have concerns, if you have, if you think about your job and your position, and maybe your industry is one that, hey, when things are great, we go way up, and when things are bad, they go way down, then you should think twice about buying a home right now, because what you don't want to do is to lose the home at the time when you're finally getting the benefit of refinancing when rates drop, values are increasing, but you don't have the income to make the monthly payment. So make sure that you are clear about your future of your income. I'll tell you, if you're a real estate agent right now, I'm not sure you're buying a home. If you're a lender right now, I'm not sure you're buying a home. Our industry, title companies, appraisers, our industries are dropping a lot. We're having some significant issues with housing, not because of a crash, but because of what I'm going to call the freeze. And that's going to be my tease for my next video. I'm doing my Friday videos right now, and I'll be talking about the freeze, because the freeze is really what I see happening right now and what I see happening for the next 6+ months. So make sure that you watch my next video. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, it's youtube.com/JohnLoanKing. It's scrolling across the bottom right here. Once you subscribe, hit the notification bell on the side, because the notification bell will tell you when I upload a video. My video I'll be uploading in the next couple of hours is going to talk about the freeze and what I think is happening in the real estate market right now that is different than a crash, but it is absolutely a freeze. So if you have any questions about anything I talked about today, please post on comments right now. While I'm giving my closing remarks, I'll leave you time to ask me a question. If you don't have any questions, then I appreciate you listening. Please share this video. And if you have ideas for future topics, please let me know, because I want to make sure that I'm delivering the content that you need. So if there's nobody else that has any questions, thank you for joining me today. I hope if you're watching recorded, post your comments and I'll be able to watch those and follow up on them later. Sherry says, thanks, John. This was super informative. I appreciate that. Kathy says she wants to learn about the freeze. Then subscribe. And as it says right here, no, it doesn't. It says it right here, subscribe and click the notification bell on YouTube, because the freeze is critical to understand being in the real estate industry. And if you're thinking about buying a home, understand what the freeze means to you. That video will be released later on today. All right, everybody. Lori says, what is the best platform to get notices of my live video? YouTube. Everything I do is on YouTube. So go on to youtube.com/JohnLoanKing and subscribe there. That's going to be the best platform to get notifications. Penny says, thanks, John. Thanks, Penny. I appreciate it. Again, if you want to just post something, your name will come up on the screen. Kathy says, thanks, John. All right, guys. Rosemary says, thank you, John. Oops, there she went away. Rosemary says, thank you, John. Let's see how many more people I can put on the screen before I go. All right. Well, I appreciate it. It says there's 8 people left, and I think I've got all 8 of you. Gang, I appreciate your time today. I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful weekend, and look for my video on the freeze coming out this afternoon. Talk to y'all soon.